new year and a new leader in Latin America. Brazil's president takes office. Will his country flourish or flounder under his reign? I'm Imran Gupta, and today's newsmaker is Jair Bolsonaro. In his maiden speech as president, Jair Bolsonaro said his victory had freed Brazil from socialism and political correctness, something he and millions of his supporters believe has been the cause of the country's problems. They include an economy in crisis, crime rates through the roof, and seemingly endless corruption scandals. In a controversial campaign, Bolsonaro promised he'd tackle these issues. Well, now the far-right firebrand has the chance. So will he deliver? That debate in a moment. But first, Natalie Perhonen has this report.
A new political era has dawned in Brazil, ushered in by far-right politician Jair Bolsonaro. For a man with Messiah as his middle name, millions of Brazilians have embraced him as their visionary leader.
It's an undescribable emotion to be here looking at our president taking power. It's an unconditional love that he deserves, and we also deserve it.
Bolsonaro has taken a sharp right turn from the socialist politics which dominated Brazil's government for the past 2 decades. His brand of populism is divisive. He's been described as the Trump of the tropics. But in some of his first remarks as president, he called for inclusion.
Vamos unir o povo, valorizar a família, respeitar as religiões e nossa tradição judaico-cristã. Combater a ideologia de gênero, conservando nossos valores. O Brasil voltará a ser país livre das amarras ideológicas.
He's only just started as Brazil's 42nd president, but Bolsonaro seems set to leave an enduring mark on the nation. Bolsonaro has styled himself as Brazil's strongman. He promised voters he would crack down on crime and corruption and revive the economy. During campaigning, he denigrated women, the poor, minorities, and the LGBT community. He says now he's in charge, Brazil has been freed from socialism and political correctness. Bolsonaro is a former military man. He seems to be recreating that kind of environment in his presidency. 7 of his cabinet members served in the armed forces.
Escolhi honrosamente para ocupar o cargo de vice-presidente da República general do Exército Brasileiro. A continência tem que ser simultânea, porque eu digo para ele que não sou mais capitão, nem ele é general. Nós somos soldados do Brasil.
He may have swept to power as the president, but he needs cross-party support to turn his pledges into law. His supporters have faith he'll deliver progress for the people.
Eu acho que vai acontecer.
I think only good things will happen. We will have more security, health will improve, everything will be better.
Saúde vai melhorar.
I think we should expect the best for Brazil, shouldn't we? I mean, you have to hope the government will be good, even if you didn't vote for him. You have to hope they came to do what's best for Brazil.
It's something this self-appointed soldier of the nation has declared is a mission he'll complete. Natalie Perhonen, The Newsmakers.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined now from Brasilia by journalist Rashid Abu Samah. He's a former opinion writer for the Brazilian newspaper, O Globo, and correspondent for Al Ahram Weekly. In Boston, we have Julio Moraes. He organized Bolsonaro's tour of the U.S. in 2017 and is also the founder of the Public Administration Institute. And we have Gianpaolo Baiocchi, who's a professor at New York University and also a part of the Defend Democracy in Brazil movement, which, Gianpaolo, is against Bolsonaro. Straight off the bat, tell me why you don't like him.
It's not that we don't like him. We are worried about the policies that are going to be coming online in Brazil starting the very next few days. We had a very, very successful decade. The World Bank called Brazil in the 2000s, described it as a golden decade, a decade of inclusion and growth and advancement of human rights. And now we have someone who's an admirer of the dictatorship, who is promising to roll back human rights, who's threatening the Amazon, and who's promising to undo a lot of the progressive social policies we've had. So it's not so much about him or even his bombastic statements, but we're very worried, we and many members of the international community, about what will happen in Brazil over the next few weeks and months.
Okay, so Julio Moraes, we have Gianpaolo, who's very worried about what might happen down the road because, as has been clearly mentioned by the president himself, he said Pinochet should have murdered more people and he admired the military dictatorship. And we've discussed a lot of these issues in the past. He himself has said that he has now liberated Brazil from socialism and political correctness and an ideology that defends bandits. Is that what you believe, Julio?
Pretty much, yes. And not only me, but the majority of the people believe that Bolsonaro is going to bring change to the Brazilian history right now. That's why the majority vote for him. We vote to remove the Labour Party from the power and put Bolsonaro. Bring change to Brazil. Bring more hope for the Brazilian economy right now, which is in crisis. I agree with Gianpaolo what he said, like we have a good times in Brazil, in the economy speaking, but then we have a crisis, and the crisis was caused by the Works Party, who was in power at the time and bring Brazil to the cause that it is right now. So I believe Bolsonaro has a big challenge right now, fix the economy and unite the people of Brazil. But right now he's being Democrat elected to be the chief of economy.
Rashid Abu Samah, was it because of the corruption scandals that the Workers' Party found itself in that caused the majority of voters to swing to the right in reaction to it?
Yes, it was indeed. After 14 years of the Workers' Party being in power in Brazil, first with Lula da Silva, who was elected twice, and then with Dilma Rousseff, who was also elected twice to office. And the amount of corruption that came out in the Mensalão, the corruption scandal, and then in the current car wash corruption scandal, which is still ongoing, has really just, disgusted most of Brazilians, and they said enough is enough. We want change. So they gambled on it, and let's see what they're going to get with this gamble. Yeah,
this is fascinating because the person he's also chosen as justice minister is Sergio Moro, the same judge at the center of car wash, which sort of highlights the divide currently in Brazil. Gianpaolo, both the guests have spoken about this being a democratic election. This is what the people want. There was an Ibope poll recently that came out, which said that 3/4 of Brazilians polled say the government, this incoming government, Bolsonaro's, is on the right course. Tell me what's going on there, Gianpaolo, if this is such a terrible guy.
Well, so Bolsonaro's campaign was very effective at mobilizing this anti-Workers' Party sentiment. I just have to correct our last guest. Brazil has a very corrupt political system, and the chasing after this corruption, the strengthening of the institutions that brought a lot of this to light, occurred under Workers' Party administrations. The Ministério Público, for instance, was significantly strengthened under Lula and Dilma. Now, the Workers' Party has had corruption in it. It's not the only party that has corruption, including Bolsonaro's own party. Many of its members have been mentioned in these corruption investigations. But what happened in Brazil was a very effective sort of political maneuvering, the media effort to frame this as a Workers' Party or as a leftist problem only, when everyone knows quite well that the corruption is widespread. That said, under the last few years of the Workers' Party, there has been a lot of resentment, not only at the corruption, but, for example, upper middle class and elite Brazilians have felt left out. The commodities boom slowed down, so the economic growth wasn't as strong as it had been. And of course, we also have to talk about some of the influence in the election, like the WhatsApp bots and so on. But it's true. There is a popular support for Bolsonaro. Nonetheless, we remain very, very worried about what this will actually mean for the majority of Brazilians.
So, Julio Moraes, would it be fair to say then that, okay, the middle class didn't like what was happening over the past few years under the Workers' Party, But now Bolsonaro's coming in. He's going to clean up the political system and he's going to revive the economy, but at the expense of the working class, at the expense of blacks, who he says we don't have a historic debt towards, at the expense of women's rights, because he's even spoken about fellow parliamentarians in terms of, well, she's too ugly, I wouldn't even rape her, at the expense of indigenous people, and so on. Is that the sacrifice you have to make to regrow the economy and to clean up corruption?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's a sacrifice what he's planning to do with the minority, especially with the indigenous right now. What he's trying to do is make everyone equal under the Brazilian's law. The LGBT, he changed the status, so he put the LGBT group, the community, into the human rights cabinet, which is going to be equal to everyone. Everyone that mistreats anyone, like it doesn't matter the sex, the sex orientation, the color, the background, the law, it's equal to everyone. But it's a new challenge right now. What Bolsonaro is going to bring is hope. We are tired of the same thing over and over again. The corruption, like João Paulo said, it's been for a long time, but then like Bolsonaro is going to bring hope, and I hope he's going to change that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's too early to say he's going to do a good job, but so far his idea, it's been pretty much good for the Brazilian
again, Julio,
citizen.
just to be clear, right? You say there's an equalizing element here, but you're saying hope. What hope is there for gay people if he's saying that being gay is the same as being a pedophile? What hope is there for many blacks who are at the bottom of the ladder when it comes to the social and economic scale when he says, we have no historic debt towards these people. I didn't enslave them. I have nothing to do with this. What hope is it to those minorities if he's already saying from the very outset, I don't really care about you?
Well, sometimes he say more than he actually do, or actually he's playing, or he express himself the way that he shouldn't express. But I think like make everyone equal under the eyes of the law is the big change right now. Why, if someone get called gay or other name, should be especially treated than someone call me like something else, or black people being like disqualified or something like that. It's kind of like everyone is equal by the laws of the of Brazil.
Okay, so Gianpaolo, what we're hearing from Julio is that from Bolsonaro supporters, they felt there was a kind of overcorrection over the years and special privileges for protected groups, and there's the swing against it now. Tell me what's going on there, Gianpaolo.
So there's definitely a swing against it, and Julio is maybe saying it more politely, but he's expressing the sense that many middle-class Brazilians have, and elite Brazilians have, that under the Workers' Party there was too much affirmative action, there was too much discussion of LGBT issues, feminism was talked about too much. But if you look at the fact, and if you look at what Brazil is as a country and where it has been and where it's come, these are pretty difficult statements to accept. Brazil is the largest, has got one of the largest black populations in the world. But if you look at the human development indicators, if you separate black Brazilians and white Brazilians, black Brazilians fare very, very badly. There's almost no black middle class in Brazil. There's almost no black doctors in Brazil. There's almost no black lawyers in Brazil, in a country that's 50% black.
Right.
So one of the things under the Workers' Party, which people find most upsetting, or people, this reaction has been against, have been the very effective, in my view, affirmative action policies. So universities in Brazil today have a roughly 50% set aside for students from public schools, Afro-Brazilians and indigenous Brazilians. And so you had these elite establishments, like University of São Paulo, Federal University of Bahia, where the lawyers, the country's elites would go to get trained, and now half of the incoming class looks very different. Of course, the number of university students also doubled at this time, so in fact, no one lost. But this is something that people find very upsetting, and it's an uncomfortable reality. And I think one of the things moving forward for the left in Brazil is how to think and how to present these ideas in a different way. You know, including Afro-Brazilian students, someone from an oppressed community in a university setting can sound like you're giving someone else an advantage when in fact you're actually correcting. So there was a messaging problem.
Right, Rashid, I want to ask you about Brazil's role in the world and how we might expect Brazil's foreign policy to to play out. Donald Trump congratulated Jair Bolsonaro on Twitter, saying, "Congratulations to President Jair Bolsonaro, who just made a great inauguration speech. The USA is with you." Jair Bolsonaro replied, "Dear Mr. President, real Donald Trump." He got the wrong name, by the way. He tweeted a parody account. I think he was so excited to reply. "I truly appreciate your words of encouragement. Together, under God's protection, we shall bring prosperity and progress to our people." Yeah, he left off that second D, but Trump got the message, I guess. Rashid, so let's look at Trump's congratulations, Bolsonaro's reaction, and also, let me just add to that, Rashid, the fact that Bolsonaro and his foreign minister, Ernesto Araujo, are keen to move Brazil's embassy to Jerusalem, away from Tel Aviv, recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. What does that tell us about what we can expect for Brazil's foreign policy and where it sees itself in the world?
Well, Jair Bolsonaro has already announced that his first overseas trip is in March, I think, is going to be to Israel, to visit Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and to visit Israel. Bolsonaro himself is Catholic, but his wife is practicing evangelical Christian. And in Brazil, there's a huge movement among evangelical Christians who support Israel and think Israel is a promised land, and they want Brazil to really have much deeper relations with Israel. The problem with all of this is that Brazil has huge commercial relations with Arab countries in terms of meat exports. Last year, I think Brazil exported around $6 billion worth of meat to Arab and Muslim countries, and to Israel, it was a bit more than $200 million. So there's really no comparison. And already the Arab League has said, if Brazil moves their embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, they might retaliate, looking for other, sellers of meat. Right. Saudi Arabia is like the largest importer of Brazilian chicken in the world. Yeah. They imported 591,000 a million tons of chicken in 2017. So, Bolsonaro is very close to Brazil's agricultural sector and the agricultural industry, and they're going to pressure him now not to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, because they're afraid of losing all these markets in the Arab world.
Yes, the agriculture minister, Teresa Cristina, worried about it. So a little bit of friction very early on. Julio, as a Bolsonaro supporter, you must be thrilled that Bolsonaro's now aligned with Trump as opposed to someone like Maduro?
Yes, definitely. Just a quick reminder, this is the guy was labeled as a fascist and Nazist, and now he's bringing Israel close to Brazilian. But it is possible, Julio. You do understand, Julio. It is possible to both domestically court the far right, but also support Israel in terms of foreign policy. The U.S. president has done that as well, with the alt-right movement at home and supporting Netanyahu. So the two don't have to be mutually exclusive. Yes, but just because, like the left side, the Works Party had labeled a guy different than he actually is right now. But going back to the economy, it's going to be a lot of pressure right now if he actually move forward to the embassy to Jerusalem. I understand that, and I think he should think about it twice before, because you want to make allies, not ignore the allies that we have with the Arabic community right now.
Okay, Gianpaolo, very finally, is there anything that you see within this administration and this president that makes you want to give him a chance and see how it goes?
Well, it's an incoherent administration. So, we have the competing economic imperatives, so the agribusiness pushing on one hand, and on the other hand, you have this very conservative cultural social discourse and causing him to do these things like these provocations, like move Brazil's embassy. So what gives me some hope is actually that this is going to be a bit of a rudderless ship. And it's going to be these competing interests, and this is going to give the opportunity for other parties and for the democratic forces in Brazil to align, to find room to resist, to prevent the rollback of some of these very, very important social policies. I personally don't have anything against Bolsonaro supporters per se. And I know I don't get agitated about his statements. I worry more about the policies and the policy outcomes, which is why mostly I remain very, very worried.
Rashid Abu Samah, Julia Moraes, and Gianpaolo Baiocchi. I've got to move on, but I thank you all for joining us here on the Newsmakers. Still to come on the program, a hat-trick for Sheikh Hasina. Bangladesh's Prime Minister wins her 3rd consecutive term. But was the vote rigged? And thousands cry foul after elections in Madagascar. Should there be a recount?
How could the BNP possibly win? We weren't allowed to have any stalls. Our leaders are being arrested. Our voter registration numbers went missing.
Almost 100 million people voted in Bangladesh's elections last week. And if the results are to be believed, the incumbent Sheikh Hasina and her ruling Awami League won by a landslide. They secured more than 95% of seats in parliament, handing Hasina her 3rd consecutive term. But that's not the full story. The opposition has rejected the results outright, calling the election a farce. Do they have a case? Well, the Awami League says no, but in the run-up to the vote, several opposition figures were locked up, including Hasina's main rival, Khalida Zia, not to mention the numerous reports of stuffed ballot boxes and voter intimidation. One woman even says she was raped because she supported the opposition. So, was Bangladesh's election free and fair? Well, to discuss this, I'm joined now from Dhaka by Mohibul Hassan Chowdhury. He's the organizing secretary of the Central Working Committee of the ruling Awami League. In London, we have Abu Bakr Mullah. He's the Europe spokesman for the opposition Jamaat-e-Islami Bangladesh that was banned from running in the recent election. And in Milton Keynes, UK, is activist Habib Mujumdar. Gentlemen, I thank you very much for joining us on the Newsmakers. Habib, let me begin with you.
Thank you very much.
So, Sheikh Hasina, she's breaking records here, and she's won another term. Awami League has won another term. Tell me why you won't be congratulating her.
Unfortunately, I won't be able to congratulate her because she is not getting a public mandate. It is if she got public mandate like how she got in 1996, I'm more than willingly to give her, welcoming her. But the way she took the power in 2014 and 2019 again, and is quite surprising, and is not only quite surprising, it's quite dangerous for ahead of Bangladesh future. The way the election is being held again in 2018, you are just quite surprised how things has been done. The election mechanism has been done. How rule of law has been there's broken by the ruling parties, activists, and then police. Law.
Okay, so certainly let me add to that and go to Mohibul Hassan Chowdhury. So you have a win. But after your win, we have, for example, Human Rights Watch saying, with serious allegations of voter intimidation, restrictions on opposition polling agents, and several candidates seeking a repoll, there are concerns about the credibility of the Bangladesh elections. Is there a fair and decent point being made there that these elections were probably not the freest and the fairest?
Let me tell you one thing. Human Rights Watch did not say a single death casualty has occurred during on the day of the election. They have said several candidates. So out of 300 MPs, only if several candidates asked for re-election in their constituency. By and large, the election has been more than...
I got a question to raise.
Hold on, Habib. Let the man finish. Go ahead, Mohibul.
And the gentleman sitting in Milton Keynes, I don't know how he assessed the situation here. I was here, I was a candidate, and the election took place in EVM, electronic voting machine here. There was no manual system where you could read the system. The point is, BNP and Jamaat, due to their political ideology being something that is completely a rejected ideology in Bangladesh, because they had aligned themselves with Jamaat-e-Islami, which is a semi-terrorist outfit.
What is a semi-terrorist outfit?
Because
you're either a terrorist or you're not. What's a semi-terrorist?
In the run-up to the election, before the election, during the campaigning time, we had 14 people dying, and out of the 14, nine of them were from Awami League, and they were shot dead by armed cadres of Jamaat Islami. And Jamaat Islami had been declared to be a terror outfit by a Canadian court as well. So it's not a bog standard political party as you would like to label others.
Fair enough. Let me bring in the
others. It is an Islamist fundamentalist party,
so
which has been rejected by the people of Bangladesh. And BNP has lost its electoral credibility because it merged with Jamaat.
Okay, so let me bring in Abu Bakr Mullah. The BNP lost its electoral credibility because they merged with you guys, and you are a semi-terrorist outfit, according to Mohibul Hassan Chowdhury from the ruling party. Your response, sir, in light of their election win?
Mr. Mohibul's claim about Jamaat is completely unfounded. The Canadian court has not said that Jamaat is a terrorist organization. Jamaat's members are being claiming asylum in Canada, and Canadian government is granting the asylum applications of Jamaat's member. And if Jamaat is a terrorist organization, they would not have granted any single asylum applications of Jamaat and BNP members. It is completely unfounded. Yes. I have not seen any report. And I can challenge Mr. Mohibul if he can show to the TRT wall. I have not seen that Canadian government has taken a position that Jamaat is a terrorist organization. And apart from that, his party, Awami League, was in alliance with Jamaat Islami for the democracy in Bangladesh for many years. Awami League and Jamaat was in alliance. Awami League and Jamaat was in the alliance for the caretaker government movement. I was part of that movement as well. So it is a complete lie. Has his government made a decision through a court that Jamaat is a terrorist organization, or has any international organization or any country has made a decision? It is a completely false allegation. Let me go back to the elections. Jamaat is not a banned political party at all, and Jamaat is not responsible, as he has said, that Jamaat for any kinds of atrocities during the election or pre-election period. Rather, his government, the ruling party, was responsible for all the killings and for all the arrests and abductions and disappearances. Hundreds of Jamaat and BNP members was arrested even on the day of the election.
Okay, Abu Bakr. Let me bring it. Okay, Abu Bakr, hold that thought for a second. Hold that thought. Let me bring in Habib. Habib, come in.
Yeah, please allow me a few things to disclose, if you please don't cut me along. The gentleman from Dhaka, he said that the Human Rights Watch haven't disclosed that any of murder that happened during the elections. If you see the Human Rights Watch today's report about the elections in Bangladesh, they have mentioned that 17 people have been killed on only the elections day. And there has been also mentions that these elections haven't got any credibilities because of there have been seen that these irregularities from very beginning of the election process happened in 2018. And then they have been continuously raising their concern to elections commissions to make sure that the level playing field has to be done before the elections being taken place. But I have a few things to have to mention today.
Hold on, Habib. We're going to take these things one at a time, right? I'm sorry, but this is a debate. I can't just let you make a bunch of points here because then there'll be no flow to the discussion whatsoever. So hold on. I want to bring in Mohibul again.
I completely understand. You're just going to say one thing.
Hold on. You said a few things. Yes, you said a few things. So, okay, make one point.
Things to say here because in Bangladesh, if I'm in Bangladesh, then somebody may restrict my voice. But I'm in the UK.
Certainly, but this is I'm not censoring you. I'm trying to have a discussion with three people, right?
You may not can stop me
but Habib,
that things is true.
Habib, I didn't invite you to have 15 minutes of you speaking. That's why we need to get all the different viewpoints over here. Mohibul Hassan Chowdhury. Now, we have people questioning the validity and the credibility of these elections. We have opposition candidates. You may think they were stupid for doing so, but they pulled out, they boycotted because they didn't believe in the process. I personally spoke to a Bangladeshi national who said, my grandfather died many years ago, but my grandfather was recorded as having voted for the Awami League in this latest election. I spoke directly to someone. Can you at least accept that there's some question marks over the credibility of these elections?
we have 160 million people, and we have 100 million voters. And out of the 100 million voters, if one or two have this kind of incidences, it does not question the entire credibility. Not a single international organization have said, by and large, this election is not credible. They have said that irregularities have to be investigated, violent incidents have to be investigated. The gentleman sitting in Milton Keynes have just said that he would not be able to speak in Bangladeshi media. And I can tell you, I'm sitting in a television channel right now. There are 30 television channels routinely broadcasting every day, and each and every
there is
of
a
them,
48 website has been shut down before the elections who are expresses their expressions regarding the elections.
They criticize the government openly and freely, and this is they have more representation in the media than
completely untrue.
Okay, Habib.
Why do you are you scared to the questions? Why do you have to shut down
hold on, gentlemen.
website who
Habib, come in.
try to bring out the truth?
A stranger, but of course, if he's a citizen of this country, he has a say.
Mohibul, let's give Habib a chance. Okay, Habib, here's your platform.
No. The things you try to make here, that is unjustifiable. You have to look down. You have to look down things here because you can't put things on which is not true here. It's not the way you can justify your things over. There is
hold on. Mohibul Hassan. Gentlemen, all of you are talking at the same time. Can we all take a break? Can we take a breath?
About the elections.
Can we all take a breath just for a second? Okay. So this is the menu for the next 4 minutes. Habib, I'm going to give you a chance to respond to that. You're a Bangladeshi citizen. You want to criticize your government. Here we have a member of the ruling party saying, listen, you can criticize your government as much as you want to, and you can vote for whoever you want to. Nobody will crack down upon you. After that, I'm going to bring in Abu Bakr Mullah. But first, Habib, go ahead.
No, that's things. Thank you very much to let these questions out. Okay, you said that I can vote anyone I want, but let me to give vote first. The peoples, you see that how many peoples can give vote these elections? They're not able to give vote at all. If they give the vote, the Awami League's majority, they won't get like more than 10 to 15% vote as per the neutral survey report. But the people who is this spreading the propaganda, what Awami League have done so far to give the gain the majorities. If I can tell you that how they dragged down Bangladesh in last 10 years, you'll get shocked. How the money has been smuggled out, how the first disappearances happen, and how the human rights has been abuses on the name of democracy in Bangladesh. If you see that, just post elections, the one lady in Noakhali, and she has been raped by 9 ruling party activists
and we've come across that report, certainly. Okay, Habib. Okay, Habib, take a breath.
Democracy is running.
Abu Bakr Mullah, as the Jamaat, what's your plan now? So Awami have won, Sheikh Hasina has a new term. They want to move forward with trying to fix the problems of the country with the new mandate from the people. What are you going to do?
Actually, Awami League has not won the election. They have rigged the election, as it has been reported by BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, and the major international media. And Mohibul is giving a wrong statement in the media. United States and in the European Union, Human Rights Watch, and the UK has clearly said there are credible reports of violence and rigging. So what is he talking about? Awami League has rigged the election. It is not an election. Bangladesh is now an autocracy.
If you phrase me this election,
it is now the time for the international community. It is not the time for the international community to intervene to bring back democracy in Bangladesh. They should not cooperate with this autocratic government. Bangladesh is now an autocracy, as it has been published by the report by a German-based organization. It is not a democracy at all. There should be re-election. There should be re-election. There should be re-election. And it has under the United Nations. Under the United Nations, there should be re-elections. There should be neutral administration to hold and free and fair.
You don't. Okay, hold on. Let me ask the question.
Election has been rigged by Mr. Mohibul's party.
Can I ask a question? Okay, so hold on. So here we are. We don't have much time left. And over the past 2 minutes, both Habib and Abu Bakr, you've both been making the same point, right? We have those on the other side, Mohibo, saying that they don't respect the legitimacy of this win, and they call your government an autocratic government. That's the government that you represent. Final response from you, sir.
Several international countries have congratulated our Prime Minister already. United Nations and head of United Nations have congratulated. There's no point in you laughing. You are sitting in Milton Keynes. I invite you to come here
United
and
Nations
see
had
whether you can
advised to
exercise freedom of speech here or
go
not.
forward to democracy.
Mullah,
Bangladesh is not a democracy.
If you say that, if you say that Bangladesh is a democratic country, I have nothing apart from laughing. Okay, is Bangladesh is one party democracy and ruling by the autocratic government. There is no rule of law exists.
500 people in 2014.
That is how you people capture the powers. You do not allow people to use their voting rights. So you're very much scared that what's going to be happen if the people give their vote. You guys
okay, Habib.
Get a majority.
Habib, let the man finish his point. Habib, let the man finish his point. Habib, please finish your point, Mohibo. Last 20 seconds, please.
My point is, having seen violent actions of Jamaat Islami and BNP-led alliance in 2014 and 15, people have
completely unfounded, Mohibul. Your party is an autocratic party. You are representing an autocratic government. Don't say that we are violent. Your party is violent.
How come your party is
still
legal in Bangladesh? It has been deregistered, but it has not been illegal.
And I feel
it has not been declared
illegal as a citizen of Bangladesh to say that my country is
okay, it appears we've hit a traffic jam in the conversation. Gentlemen,
I'm going to move on. You are misleading the audience. You are misleading the audience.
Okay, for the sake of time, I think
we're not misleading the audience.
I've done my best to ensure that all of you had your chance. We've hit a bit of a traffic jam in the conversation. And Habib, please, before you say another word, I don't actually have any more time. So, Abu Bakr, Mohibul, Hassan Chowdhury, and Habib Mujumla, I'm sorry, I have to move on. Thank you very much for joining us.
This is very important.
Thanks, gentlemen. Sorry, Habib, there's no time. Sorry. I'm sorry, time's our enemy. Thank you. Bye-bye. The streets of Madagascar are filled with angry protesters. Thousands of opposition supporters have clashed with police who fired tear gas to break up a demonstration demanding a recount of last month's election. The vote saw two of the nation's biggest rivals go head-to-head. Andrei Rajoelina beat his longtime rival Marc Ravalomanana, but his opponent is crying foul. The two men have history. Both were banned from taking part in the 2013 election as part of an agreement to end the country's political crisis. So when they faced off in December, for the first time in almost a decade, there was a good chance things weren't going to go well. Randolph Nogel reports.
Madagascar's tumultuous political history is still being written. In this latest chapter, it appears a leader has been elected, Andrei Rajoelina. But his most bitter rival, former President Marc Ravalomanana, is challenging the result of last month's runoff vote. The second poll in as many months, it was a showdown between two long-standing political opponents. Ravalomanana was ousted from the presidency in 2009 in what was widely seen as a military coup orchestrated by Rajoelina. More than 100 people were killed in the ensuing unrest. Then, a populist opposition leader and mayor of the capital, Antananarivo, Rajoelina was installed by the military and sworn in as leader of a transitional government. Both men were banned from running for president in 2013 under an internationally brokered agreement. More than 5 years later, it appears Rajoelina will be Madagascar's next president, pending a petition filed by Ravalomanana's campaign.
I thank all the Malagasy people who gave me their trust, even those who voted for the other candidate. My message is you have to be serene. The Malagasy people no longer need disorder. People need a leader who has wisdom, who will unite and gather together all the Malagasy people.
But protesters supporting the former president have vowed to keep demonstrating and say the vote was marred by fraud and should be canceled. But even in a country that has struggled with endemic corruption, election observers say the runoff vote was fair.
The statements, as you know very well, concerning this massive fraud were brought forward a few days before the election by the candidates. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we have not been able to see this.
The Constitutional Court will hand down its ruling on the petition next week. And there's a lot at stake. Whoever takes up the reins, Madagascar's power dynamics for now appear to be confined to the same elite few, while a country in which more than 2/3 of people live in extreme poverty hopes for a more prosperous future. Randolph Nogel, The Newsmakers.
Well, to discuss this, I'm joined now by Patrick Rajoelina in Paris. He co-wrote Madagascar's constitution and was an advisor to the former president, Ari Rajaonaremampianina. And in Antananarivo, we have Jair Bolsonaro. She's a journalist and the CEO of Tanala Productions. I thank you both for joining us here on The Newsmakers. Jair Bolsonaro, let me start with you. Are we possibly on the cusp of real trouble here because of this cosmic battle between two men?
It's very difficult to anticipate, but since the poll day, there is a lot of trouble on both sides. Both candidates immediately criticized the Electoral Commission, especially Marc Ravalomanana, the defeated candidate. He made an announcement on his public TV channel saying that the choice of the people had been violated. He called on the people of Madagascar to defend their choice. He's sure that the result published by the Electoral Commission is not credible. So in a week, it's been the third street protest. Mm-hmm. So it's we might think that it can go worse.
Patrick, is Marc Ravalomanana contesting it because of sour grapes, or does he have a strong case?
What we can see today, the situation is calm in the capital, and there is no troubles in the deep country of Madagascar. Yesterday and last Saturday, there was unauthorized demonstration with only tear gas and a few injured people. But what can we say today about the claims of Marc Ravalomanana? I don't know, because he sent the claims to the High Constitutional Court in Antananarivo, and so they study these claims. There is 300 claims, 200 from Marc Ravalomanana and 75 from the President Ari Rajoelina, and so we are waiting for the official results from the High Constitutional Courts. But what can we say today? I think the situation is quite a little clear today. I think the game is over because there is 500,000, more than 500,000 votes for Ari Rajoelina report to Marc Ravalomanana. So I think we have now to receive the official result, and I think now everybody must go to work.
Okay, so Jair Bolsonaro, do you agree that the game is over and that the opposition needs to accept the results?
This is what the international community says. This is what the international observers say. They hope that both candidates will accept the final result. But it's very difficult to know what will happen in the following days because these two men have been fighting for 10 years now, and they are the most important political figures in the country, and they have a lot of supporters. And what I've seen in the streets is very, very angry people, and they criticize the Electoral Commission, even if they don't support Marc Ravalomanana, even if they don't support Ari Rajoelina, they think that there had been something wrong. There has been something wrong with the Electoral Commission, and they want to know the truth. That's what people say in the street.
Right. Patrick, more than 2/3 of Malagasi's live in extreme poverty.
Yeah.
The economy is not doing too well. And as we heard from Gail, these two men have been battling each other for more than a decade now. Is it a fair question from the outside looking in to ask whether these two men are holding the nation hostage to their own personal tussle amongst themselves?
Today, I think we have to build a new Madagascar with President Rajoelina or President Ravalomanana. This is the first fact for everybody, not only for the international, for the observers of the international community, United Nations, African Union, European Union, SADC, and many, many observers. There is thousands of observers who say that the elections were calm. There is fraud, of course, but in the two parts, first. And the second one is, it's not only the international community who wants peace and democracy in Madagascar. There is entrepreneurs, the workers, and the national NGO also. We want peace in Madagascar, we want to work. Because, as you say, there is a lot of poverty in Madagascar. We need to build many things in Madagascar. That's why we are waiting very quietly the official result of the High Constitutional Court. And I think the pronostics from everybody, even the journalists, are difficult today.
Right.
Because all the Madagascan people, and in the country, in the deep country, they want to work.
Right.
There is only demonstration in the capital, Antananarivo, but there is nothing in the deep country of Madagascar.
Okay.
The deep country of Madagascar is a victim of security since a long years ago.
Right. Okay.
So they want peace and democracy.
Okay, so let me ask Gail Borgia about that. Gail, does that ring true to you, that in the deep country and in the rural areas, I guess, you don't have this sense of protest? It's only in Antananarivo and in the city centers. There's an urban element to the protest. Is that fair?
Indeed, Patrick Rajoelina is right. Protesters are only in the capital, Antananarivo, and in the rest of the country, it's very calm. And especially because the Ravalomanana supporters live in the central part of the country, and especially in the capital, Antananarivo. It is where he got the biggest amount of voters. But André Rajoelina got his votes from the coast, from the rest of the country. So that's why we can say that the country is divided into two parts, people supporting Rajoelina and people supporting Marc Ravalomanana. And you have to know that usually it's the capital that makes that is the core of the Malagasy politics. So that's why when there are protests, they usually happen in the capital, Antananarivo. So this is a kind of logical what's happening at the moment.
And Patrick, for those who look at it and they look at the history and they see that Rajoelina had ousted Ravalomanana in a coup that was supported by the military in 2009, and now he's won the election, and you have the other man crying foul. Does it suggest that no matter what, even though there is a democratic election, whoever wins has to have the backing of the military?
Well, I think it's a democratic elections because I talk about the observers of the international community. But I want to talk something about what says Gail. The president-elect André Rajoelina, I hope so, André Rajoelina was not only elected by the coast, but also in the central part of Madagascar, because he wins more than 40% in the central part of Madagascar, especially with the poor people, the workers. But it's not true to say that President Rajoelina is only elected by the coast, because we make only one country. And we need the development for every Madagascan people. There is no coaster, there is not highlanders, there is only Madagascans. So it's not good to divide the people of Madagascar. The president, André Joël, is elected maybe by all the Madagascans.
Okay, Gail, similar question to you, and it will be my final question. Same question that I asked Patrick in a slightly different way. Is it easier for Andry Rajoelina to be elected because he is more preferred by the country's very strong military?
I wouldn't say so, because what happened in 2009 when the army backed Andry Rajoelina for what was considered at the time by the international community as a coup, it's a different situation now. Andry Rajoelina got prepared very well for this election. He hasn't talked for almost 5 years. I've been living in this country for 7 years, and I'm a journalist here, and I've never heard of him for almost 5 years. And he came back in 2018 with a new party. He said he studied abroad, so he got really ready for this election, and financially speaking as well. So I wouldn't put the military, the army, in this context. But what I said earlier was that Andry Rajoelina got the biggest amount of his voters in the coast, and Marc Ravaloman got the biggest amount of his voters in the central part of Madagascar. So there's a clear division, even if it's the same country, of course, and they are all Madagascar people, but there's a clear difference, and that's why there are trouble in the central part of the country, and especially in the capital.
Okay, Gail and Patrick, we'll have to wait for what the Constitutional Court has to say. We'll be keeping a close eye on Madagascar, but for the moment, I'd like to thank you for joining us here on the Newsmakers.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go New Horizons! Go New Horizons!
We're here to tell you that last night, overnight, the United States spacecraft New Horizons conducted the farthest exploration in the history of humankind, and did so spectacularly. Thousands of operations on board the spacecraft had to work correctly in order for us to be able to tell you this, and now we know that it all did. Well, here's where we were just a couple days ago on December 31st, 2018. This was humanity's best image of Ultima Thule. That image is so 2018. Meet Ultima Thule. What you're seeing is the first contact binary ever explored by spacecraft.
That's all for this edition of the Newsmakers with me, Imran Garda. Check out more of our stories on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. Until next time, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.